Let's come back to why we're actually broadcasting live from the Grand Parade here in Cape Town. As you know, President Cyril Ramaphosa will address the nation about the state of South Africa and the pulse of the nation. Ultimately, we'll find out what the president has done in the past year. We'll find out what he's going to do in the next year to try to deal with the many crises that is currently unfolding. But what we've been trying to do is speak to ordinary South Africans about what they are feeling on the ground. And during that process, we will also speak to officials in the Western Cape as well as the ANC and DA about what's being done to help these people get through things on the ground. We can speak to JP Smith from the City of Cape Town. Thanks so much for your time. We appreciate it. So this is a preview to the State of the Nation address at JP, but we want to know right now whether you believe people in South Africa are living a life that they actually deserve.
No, sir. No, I think the statistics show us that around unemployment, crime, access to housing, and even access increasingly to basic services of water and electricity, that these are extraordinary vulnerabilities. And at this stage in our economy and in our growth as a nation, I don't think we wanted to be here.
Yeah. So as the City of Cape Town, how do you work to actually see people in areas that are still poverty-stricken come out of that?
I think probably most prominently in the most targeted way, the Mayor has an urban regeneration or urban investment fund, about R500 million in that now to hit the 10 most significant nodes, and that's a very accelerated delivery to try and make life bearable, to deal with issues of public lighting and public safety and create an investment environment where businesses can move in and create jobs. Maintain the levels of basic access to water and electricity that we do. Every year we achieve the highest levels of access to those services, and that is a constant challenge because of very rapid in-migration, so you have to try and keep up with that. And you will have noticed that Sunday we rolled out 500 extra law enforcement staff with another 500 on 1 July to just try and compensate for the SAPS members we've lost over the last 4 years. We've lost 4,500 SAPS members. The communities are really feeling that, and we're trying to compensate for that from local government and provincial funding, and unfortunately that again comes at the expense of other services.
Yeah. So, JP, I drove into Cape Town this morning, and one of the drivers I was speaking to was saying that they feel that service delivery is not fair because there's certain communities that get service delivery but not others. What do you say to that?
I think that if you look at the stats and how the budget is apportioned, you'll see that the majority of resources is going into the most indigent areas, and that's a simple and demonstrable fact. That goes for our policing resources, it goes for where water and electricity budgets are spent. The truth is that the backlogs are significant and that they continue to grow, so you're chasing a moving goalpost that doesn't rest. You've got very rapid in-migration, and I think the challenges for us as local government is difficult. All the municipalities across South Africa are groaning because the funding model for local government is dysfunctional, and I think it's becoming increasingly more dysfunctional, especially around water and electricity, where many people are going off grid, and local government everywhere is struggling to find ways to compensate for that loss of revenue while still rendering services. And if you can see this reflected in the level of or number of municipalities that are now under administration across the country, which is staggering.
Yeah. So I want to point out that the inequalities this person spoke of is not what's happening in the city compared to their areas. It was what was happening in Langa, for instance, the housing provided there compared to other areas which this person said was being ignored. So it was poor versus poor in that instance. So that's the imbalance I heard about today.
These are difficult things. I have sympathy for my colleague in urban and human settlements. I mean, I've gone with him to some of these meetings, and just being able to find land, go through the various zoning and preparation processes, lay services and negotiate with the communities is so difficult. If I can use, seeing as you raised Langa as an example, the backyard program there to create proper accommodation for the current hostel occupants has been a marathon exercise because internally communities are extremely divided and factionalized. So it is really difficult to have a conversation because you're not talking to the community, you're talking to many conflict-ridden factions who really have very little tolerance for each other. And that is demonstrated in the informal settlement versus backyarder dynamic, in the KP versus recent immigrant dynamic. It is a very difficult space for us to navigate, and it makes service delivery much slower.
Yeah. Very quickly, you think you're doing a good job?
Yes, sir. If you look at the favourability ratings, you look at what we're achieving as local government, you look at what we're doing with access to basic services, with levels of unemployment being consistently 6% lower than elsewhere, with the amount of local government job creation that we do directly. We are the single largest EPWP job creator in South Africa. With what we have to do, I think we're doing a pretty reasonable or good job. But that really is up to the public to say, and they will soon have an opinion to make that voice felt at the ballot.
All right, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it. That is JP Smith from the city of Cape Town. Interesting to hear from leaders in the cities and how they compare to what we're hearing on the ground.